They say the desert buries its secrets fast, but that Apache woman looked like one the earth had already claimed, until she woke up in a cowboy's bed, and the bed wasn't hers to die in. The night before, she had closed her eyes on the dust and thirst, certain her spirit was slipping beyond the prairie sky. Her name was Goyathlay, 24 years old, her limbs thin from hunger, her breath shallow from loss. She had been taught not to weep before death, yet her lashes were wet when the darkness came. She expected silence. Instead, she opened her eyes to a cracked wooden ceiling, the smell of smoke and leather, and the weight of a quilt tucked around her shoulders. A man sat in the shadow of the room, long frame folded awkwardly in a chair. His boots were still on, spurs dull by years of wear. His face bore a scar that ran from jaw to neck like a white river carved by violence. He was not asleep. He was watching, as though he expected her to vanish at any moment. His name was Joseph Harper, 29, a cowboy with a reputation in town that made women whisper and men scowl. Neither spoke first. The silence stretched until it seemed to creak like the wooden rafters above them. Joseph finally rose, poured water into a tin cup, and sat on the small table beside her. He did not tell her to drink. He simply leaned back against the wall and let her decide. The quilt smelled of him, smoke, sweat, and something faintly sweet like old tobacco. She hated that comfort stirred beneath her ribs. Yet she drank, water sliding down her raw throat like forgiveness. Outside, the prairie wind moaned against the boards, carrying the cries of coyotes. Inside, two strangers sat with the fragile quiet of those who had nothing left to lose. Word spread quicker than prairie fire. By morning, every tongue in town wagged with the rumor. Joseph Harper had an Apache woman under his roof. Clara Mayfield, keeper of the mercantile, told anyone who'd listen that Joseph was inviting ruin right into his bed. The preacher tightened his jaw and warned him, "Harper, you're treading where God don't walk. Send her back to the dirt before the dirt swallows you too." Joseph didn't answer. He never wasted words. He only kept her fed, kept her safe, as though his silence itself was a shield. But silence cannot stop the stares, nor feed a ranch stripped of help. Goyathlay felt the weight of the gossip pressing on his back, though he never once accused her. In the evenings, he sat outside on the porch, whittling wood with that eerie calm of his, while she mended his torn shirts by firelight. Their companionship was built from fragments, her braiding leather for his reins, him leaving wildflowers in a chipped cup by her bedside. There was no language for what was happening, no name for the thread weaving them together. He spoke little, she trusted less. And yet, in the silence, they began to share something stranger than affection, recognition. Storm came one night, rain thrashing the roof like judgment. By the dim glow of the stove, Joseph spoke more words than she'd ever heard him string together. He told her his scar wasn't earned in battle, but at his father's hand, rage bottled in whiskey and spilled out in fists. She answered in kind. Her people forced to walk until children died where they stood, mothers carrying empty bundles that once had weight. Between them lay grief like an open wound, but also the stubborn fact of survival. The bond deepened, though danger grew. His brother Elijah rode in, smelling of whiskey and jealousy. He laughed when he saw Goyathlay. "You keep a wildcat in your bed and wonder why the world spits in your drink." Elijah sneered, voice sharp as broken glass. "There's bounty on her head, brother." A smart man would hand her over. Joseph didn't move, only spoke in a voice so calm it chilled the air. "You'll have to step over me first." Elijah spat, muttered threats, and rode out. The town's patience was thinning, and so the fire came. They woke to the crackle of flames, consuming the barn. Cattle scattered into the night, lowing in panic. Joseph fought to save what he could, but by dawn, half the ranch lay in ashes. The loss was carved into his face like a second scar. Goyathlay could not bear the sight. She believed herself the curse that haunted him. That morning, before he woke, she slipped barefoot from the cabin and walked toward the endless desert. Better to vanish into the sand than drag him further into ruin. But Joseph found her tracks. He caught up before noon, his figure appearing like a mirage against the horizon. He didn't shout. He didn't plead. He only said, in that bone-dry humor of his, "World don't give a damn about either of us. Might as well not give a damn back." Her throat burned with unshed tears. For the first time since she'd met him, she smiled, small, fragile, but real. And she turned with him back toward the smoldering ruin that was still their home. The months that followed were not grand, nor easy. They rebuilt with their own hands, hammering beams, driving nails, sowing seed into stubborn ground. Neighbors passed by on wagons, whispering sharp judgments, but Joseph and Goyathle moved with a rhythm all their own, quiet, deliberate, unshaken. Their affection was never declared, only shown. His scarred hand steadied her shoulder when she stumbled. Her fingers brushed his as they passed tools in silence. They shared one quilt at night, warmth pressed between them like a secret they both pretended not to notice. By spring, Clara Mayfield drove past the ranch in her carriage. She saw the garden sprouting under Goyathle's hands, Joseph mending fences beside her. The sight made Clara mutter, "Well, hell. Maybe ghosts do keep house after all." But they were not ghosts. They were stubborn flesh and blood, refusing to bend to gossip, fire, or loneliness. And in the end, the desert did not bury them. It bore witness. The narrator's voice softens, closing like the last note of a hymn. The West never did hand out tidy endings, but sometimes two broken lives fit together like cracked boards holding up the same roof. Love here wasn't loud, wasn't sweet. It was dust, sweat, and silence. It was survival made sacred. And if that ain't happiness, I don't know what is. So remember this, reader. Love is not found. It is built. And the fiercest homes are made by outcasts who refuse to bow.